This has got to be one of the stupidest defenses I've seen for this series, and I've seen some pretty fucking stupid ones so far. Hello, this is Mara Jade, and I'm back with another video, and this headline might as well read that it's okay for no one to be talking about this series, because that's the whole point of the water cooler conversation at work. That's the whole premise. People congregate around that location to talk about anything that happened, that transpired during the week, whether it's a sporting event, a TV series, or a movie. But the fact is that they're talking about it. That's the whole point. And you're literally saying it's okay that no one is talking about it. I don't think that's what Amazon wanted. Because what entity, regardless of its entertainment or not, creates a product that no one wants to talk about? And that's okay. How is this a defense? But at any rate, let's just dive right into this article so we can get gauge with the copium going on with this attempt at a defense. So without further ado, here it is. It's still a huge relief. That's a masterpiece of overstatement because it's purgatory for me. Rings of Power has been rolling out on a weekly basis. More a strategic decision than a purely creative one, the idea was almost definitely to give this massive Prime Video adaptation a weekly chance to not only remind TV viewers of its existence, it's kind of like, like the reminder that the killer is still there in a slasher film, but to carve out a decent chunk of the fall TV conversation every Friday. Aside from the obligatory back-padding viewership numbers released after the show's debut a few weeks ago, which, 2 points there. One, that 25 million that Amazon boasted about, that was global across 240 countries and territories. So if you actually do the math, that's actually a pretty fucking sad percentage if you think about it, especially given the global reach Amazon has as compared to HBO Max. And speaking of HBO Max, we have third-party entities crunching the numbers because Amazon refuses to release them to let people know how well Rings of Power is actually doing, and showing that viewership is actually declining. Even declined from the first episode to the second episode, per my 2 videos, as well as 30% so far, with demand for House of the Dragon potentially doubling. So, HBO Max, less subscribers, less global reach, demand is potentially doubling for their show, and then Rings of Power is losing viewers pretty much on a weekly basis. How does that work? But anyway, alright. So instead of gauging interest becomes an anecdotal guessing game. Rings of Power hasn't been the culture engulfing phenomenon that those signing off on the show's price tag might have been hoping for, but with a little under half the season left, it's positioning itself for a different kind of slow burn buzz. You just said in the headline, it's okay people aren't talking about it. So what buzz is there? What fucking buzz is there? When Amazon bought the rights to build out its own corner of Tolkien lore, own corner of Tolkien lore, not actual Tolkien lore, but the fan fiction that bastardizes and butchers Middle-earth and the existing lore to create a story, their own story, in their own words per an interview from several months ago. This is not Tolkien's story, this is Amazon's story. So they're not carving out any corner of Tolkien lore, they're making their own story and then stamping Lord of the Rings onto the title to get people to watch it. That's what they're fucking doing. It was paying for prestige. It's not that Lord of the Rings is inherently highbrow at its core, but there's a certain kind of stately dignity that comes along with its storytelling magic. The hallowed royal halls of different races arrive hand in hand with a lighter, more playful look at different regions of this world, regardless of the evil that's starting to encroach. We should be feeling the evil starting to encroach, and we haven't. 5 episodes in, over halfway there, nothing has fucking happened. We don't feel the evil encroaching. We don't care about these characters. We actually despise the lead character, Galadriel, because they made her so fucking unlikable in this series. How do you manage that? But to say that regardless of the evil that's starting to encroach, nothing is encroaching right now. Nothing! This opening Rings of Power season is not without some pacing issues. That's a masterpiece of understatement. No pacing whatsoever. 5 episodes in, just starting to pick up. But establishing a world of genuine trust and camaraderie takes its time. They Peter Jackson managed to do it with adapting Lord of the Rings with the first movie. The first movie, even the extended edition, in its total running time, is far less than what we've been given so far with Rings of Power. He was able to do that. How are they unable to do that with more time given? Setting up the dynamic of uneasiness between men and elves, dwarves and elves, and Harfoots, and any outsiders are things that the opening episodes effectively set in motion but could never do in full. That reality is all the more stark when its easiest comparison point right now is often fueled by ruthless and vicious infighting with more frequent and bloody consequences. So Rings of Power and growing that united front against the common enemy is often left without the kind of sensational cliffhanging moment that can dominate the cultural conversation week to week. And yet it's okay, right? No one's talking about it. That doesn't make it an inherently superior or inferior show to its current competitors, but it does make for a more honest way to consider the consequences its characters are facing. Part of the show's ethos is a kind of consistency of establishing a world as it is before a major change. They could have fucking done that in, at most 3 episodes, but they should have been able to do it in at most 2. They shouldn't be taking 5 episodes for world building. Rings of Power has to make the viewer feel the massive weight of multiple societies being drawn into a battle they can't avoid. Again, Peter Jackson managed that in less time and in one movie. Managed that in less time and one fucking movie. Wrap your heads around that. That takes really living inside the way things are before that transformation comes. Here, discussions of power are not as easily boiled down to petty palace intrigue and soapy backroom maneuvers. Fans likely needed to recalibrate their watching experience given that the demands and rhythms of episodic storytelling are fundamentally different from how most people have seen stories in this world before. See, the whole recalibration happens around the water cooler. That's where the recalibration pretty much occurs, where you're talking to someone about it, and you're getting your thoughts out, and you're getting someone else's thoughts, and you're having a conversation, and you're figuring, hey, that person saw something I didn't see, or I saw something that person didn't see. That's the whole point of the water cooler premise, and yet you're saying it's okay. That no one is recalibrating their watching experience by talking to people. Rings of Power has been at its best when its episodes feel like something more than a collection of check-ins with different groups. Every fucking episode has pretty much been a check-in with a different group so far. No actual world building, really. No pacing. No good storytelling. It's just, hey, remember the Harfoots? They're over here. Remember the Southlanders? They're over there. The Númenóreans? They're right here. That's it. It's just been a series of check-ins every damn episode. The expectations of self-contained arcs with orcs, honed over the past 2 decades by floods of movie marathons and the Game of Thrones run, that build an artificial escalation into the DNA of its later seasons, there should be escalation. We should be feeling the encroaching evil. And we haven't. Nothing. Rings of Power so far has resisted those jarring shifts in favor of putting added emphasis on what the show is building toward. In the process, it has avoided treating these opening 5 episodes as blockbuster mini-movies. They don't have to be treated as mini-movies, but they have to get the plot fucking moving, and they haven't. It also de-emphasized the theory aspect of modern fandom, with the notable exception of The Stranger, and the more coy it's been with them, the more frustrating that particular subplot has been and potentially could be. Rings of Power isn't demanding its viewers to go beyond what's already been presented. So you're basically saying it's okay that no one's talking about it because that would be something that they would talk about, the theories. Again, water cooler conversation would be talking about the episode itself, and the theories that would be spawning from the events set up in the episode to go into the next one. And you're saying it's okay to de-emphasize the theory aspect. No one's talking about it. There's the source material for those who may still want to go looking for clues. No. Fucking no. There's not the source material because even with the timeline's all over the place. So you tell someone to go look at the timeline for the Second Age, they're going to be confused as fuck because you have events happening prior to the Rings of Power actually being created and events happening nearly 2,000 years later. all converging into one. That never fucking happened. So if you were to tell people to actually read the source material, they'll be just more confused. But the show is, to some extent, bound by the in-world history it's hurtling towards. The fan fiction. Not the history, the fan fiction. Because Rings of Power is driven more by environments and schemes and plots, there's less an invitation to solve it before it happens. The whole thing that people are trying to solve is who Sauron is. But again, you're saying it's okay to de-emphasize the theory aspect. It's always okay that no one's talking about this show. In a genre TV landscape that's constantly inviting an audience to second-guess around the edges, one of the modern fantasy literature's richest texts has given rise to a show that's designed to be more an experience than a conversation. There should be both. It should be both an experience and conversation because you want to share your experience with people by conversing with them. Mind fucking blown. And it's not that Rings of Power doesn't have its own revelations. Galadriel's path has been an unexpected spin on prequelizing an iconic character. No, it's not been unexpected because those who've been following the news have been calling it out for several months. And two, that's not Galadriel. That's Galadriel in name only because Galadriel never did the shit the show is portraying. Nothing. At this point in the fucking series, in the timeline, she would be not only married, but have a daughter. She wouldn't be in Numenor. She wouldn't be tracking down Sauron. She wouldn't do any of this fucking shit. She would be happily married. And where's Celeborn? Nowhere to be found. Where's her daughter? Nowhere to be found. Oh, and her daughter marries Elrond. Elrond marries her daughter. Arwen is Galadriel's granddaughter. Where's Galadriel's daughter? And she considers Elrond a friend. Elrond was never really a friend. Elrond was the commander to Gil-galad, not Galadriel. Isildur, Mithril, that fucking lore-breaking pissed me the fuck off. And all the other nods to movie trilogy predecessors have taken on that same idea that no one reveal is going to be seismic enough to single-handedly change the course of the series. They're all working together in tandem to build a bridge to a coming conflict, and bridges can be feats of their own. What conflict? And what feats? The idea of Lord of the Rings Prestige was going to be more about the execution of environments. Performances and character choices are still vital to the success of the show, but this adaptation was always going to rise or fall on spirit and tactically. Oh, God damn. Again, saying it's okay, people aren't actually talking about this. Rings of Power, especially in its Numenor sequences, is thriving on the lived-in details of places that have never made it to the screen before. Nothing about Numenor makes sense. There's a grandeur there that's meant to be soaked in rather than to be condensed down to a sensational, momentary thing to parse over. Nothing grandeur about it. Nothing. Other than the opening sequence of the shot of entering Numenor, nothing has been grandeur about this location. Which is sad. The series' most recent episode has a literal explosion, but it's clear that its purpose isn't to inspire "this changes everything" style headlines or reactions. The emphasis here is less on creating spectacle as it is looking at what that surprise stirs in the people who witness it and those who have a hand in making it happen. Oh, that explosion was a domestic terrorist trying to blow up one of Numenor's ships, and Isildur saving said domestic terrorist to use it as a way for him to get onto one of the ships to go towards Middle-earth. So selfish and stupid. Given the drum beats that grow louder with each episode, it's pretty much a whimper at this point. So what fucking drum beats are you talking about? It's not as if Rings of Power is going to stay in Tolkien travelogue mode for the entire season. Unpacking the mystery of the stranger is almost certainly something that will give the show a true entry point for a bigger discussion when those answers come out in their own due time. Again, the whole mystery of the stranger should be the water cooler conversation. And you're saying it's okay that people aren't actually giving a shit about the stranger. Elsewhere, enough factions are itching for a battle in the Southlands to the point that the last 3 episodes seem primed to be the kind of finale that some viewers might be expecting. Either way, it wouldn't be a Lord of the Rings story without giving equal weight to the destination and the journey. The amount of copium in this article is just astounding. But there it is, folks. There it is. Basically saying, in so many words, it's okay that no one is talking about this series. It's okay that no one cares to discuss with anyone the mystery of the stranger, or who Sauron could be, or the events that transpired in any previous episode. It's okay that no one is standing around the water cooler talking about this series. And I would bet people are talking about the water cooler, or talking around the water cooler about House of the Dragon. So does that make it not okay? But anyway, what are your thoughts down in the comments below? Do you agree with this article? Do you disagree with this article? Have you been watching the series as I have? What are your thoughts on it if you have? I'll be live later on Twitch tonight, playing some more Metal Gear Solid 5, around 7:30 p.m. Eastern, thereabouts, so look for that. And look for more videos to come during the week, as well as Twitch streams, as well as YouTube streams. This is Mario Jade, catch you on the dark side, and I would be genuinely surprised if anyone was talking about this shit positively.